Yeah, hello, I'm Randy Welsh, co-founder of Jibu, and Al, I really appreciate the invite to the panel. I'm so sorry that I couldn't make it. I'm here in beautiful Rwanda. In fact, my shirt is the colors of the Rwandan flag. I'm in a franchise here that Jibu owns, and so greetings from Rwanda. So I know Al's probably briefed you a little bit on Jibu, but I'll give you the real quick high level. So what we do is we equip entrepreneurs to start businesses, to sell drinking water to the urban poor using a franchise model. So it's not just about water, as I'll show you, and but it's about ownership and opportunity. So these are independent business owners working in a franchise model. We don't drill for water, we draw water into the back of the store, and then there's water filtration that we install that's appropriate for that water source. And then the front of the store is a retail outlet, which is where I'm standing now, that serves about a 1 mile or 2 kilometer radius around the area. We map out the whole country into these walkable territories. So the subject at hand is really, really important to us, and that is how we're cooperating with governments. So Jibu is organized as an L3C. It's a hybrid in the US. It's a hybrid for-profit that must prioritize charitable impact. And it's designed specifically to bring together blended capital from multiple sources: for-profits, not-for-profits, foundations, and governments. So we're de-stovepiping between those organizations that often don't cooperate. So this is something really near and dear to our heart. Now I want to divide the government up into two types. There's the international governments that provide support to emerging markets, and then there's the local governments who are implementers on the ground. I'm going to focus exclusively on the local governments because I think that's most germane to at least our situation. So when we go to a new country, and by the way, we're in currently 6 countries, soon to be 7. It's Uganda, Rwanda, Kenya, Zimbabwe, Tanzania, DR Congo, and we'll soon be in Zambia. So all those countries in Africa. So when we go to a country, the first thing we do is meet with the government officials. And those would be people like regulators. We understand the regulations around water and other things. We understand taxing. We need to meet with politicians, understand the political climate. We need to create those networks and connections. And we often have business partners there who are implementers on our behalf of these things. So when we first start, it's super important. But it's even more important after we get started. And I'll show you an example. So this is our flagship bottle. It's a 20-liter bottle. It's like a 5-gallon, like you tip over on dispenser. The key thing here is this tap, which is really, you wouldn't think it's an innovation, but it's innovation. It enables families to buy large quantities of water cheaply enough. And it's made of a special type of durable plastic. But the big thing is this top here, this is sealed. And you're able to tip this over onto a dispenser. Once you seal the bottle, a whole nother set of regulations apply related to quality and some other things. I want to come back to that, but first I want to show you a couple of the things we do. This is a half a liter bottle that people buy and then refill. And there are these stands, as you can see here, all over the city that make it affordable for people to fill the bottles and take it with them. They can also use their own bottles in this case. In this case, the water in here is certified, but not the water. The containers aren't being washed or anything. And I'll mention one other thing is we also sell, here in Rwanda at least, fortified porridge. So we sell products that are complementary to water. Why have fortified porridge and vitamins and put unsafe water into it? So things like this, just to give you a sense. But back to the audit, sealing the bottle. We want the government involved in this because these are independent business owners in a franchise model. We have our own set of rules, and then we have to preserve our brand integrity, make sure quality occurs, and our standards, because of that, are much higher than even what the government applies. But we want them auditing our franchisees. We pay for that service. So it's important to us to have that type of cooperation. But the challenge is a lot of times is that the government officials, I would say, how to say this, I guess public service isn't always the number one motivator. And that's a challenge sometimes. In addition, because we sell our water so cheaply, by the way, that water in that 20-liter bottle is about $1. The water bottlers in the city typically are $3 or $4 perhaps. We've actually brought the price down because of how low we are, but we don't view the water bottlers as our competitors because we're creating a whole new market, but of course they see us as their competitors. So there's lots of pressure they put on us directly, as well as more powerfully to the government itself to put pressure on us. So, and that's sometimes that's successful. So that's a challenge for us. And so once you're successful, you have a target on your back. I mean, so we have, as I mentioned, we're in these 6 countries. We have, 300 some franchises, micro franchises in these countries, probably 2,000 retail points, not even counting these little stands up. So we have a very high profile in a lot of these countries, so we become a target. I'm going to give you one final example and I'll close. One of the countries we operate in has, a lot of the countries have an excise tax on water. Now, an excise tax, you may know this, sometimes it's called a sin tax. It's a tax that's put on items the government wants to discourage consumption of, things like alcohol or cigarettes. Many of these governments put an excise tax on drinking water, of all things. Hard to believe to me. So, but in this one country, it's the highest, we think, in the world. It's 5 US cents per liter. So if you do the math with our $1 20-liter bottle, and we have to add 5 cents to it, that doubles the price to $2, which makes it very difficult for our target market to afford, that water. So we're in the process of, and there's a clause in their tax law which exempts companies like Jibu, who have a charitable purpose and some other things, I'm oversimplifying, that they're not subject to this tax. But before we came to this country, we knew there were many nonprofits that were forced out because they were being forced to pay this tax and they couldn't afford to do it. And so we're negotiating with the top officials in this taxing agency, and very positively having agreement on how to move forward. Yes, we should be exempt. Jibu's doing a great service. And that was just called a surprise attack. They went around and shut down all of our franchises. Now, we only had a few at the time because we're going slowly, wanted to make sure this worked. They padlocked the doors, claimed we owed hundreds of thousands of dollars. We had a decision to make, whether to fight it, whether to pay the tax, or what to do. And by the way, these are all independent franchise owners. These are small business owners. But they don't even understand the franchise model. They assume it was Jibu owned the stores. It's a big mess. So we got an injunction to reopen the shops. And then we decided to go to court to fight the back taxes and also to establish the legality of the law that existed, which totally clear. There was no doubt about it. The court case kept getting delayed. We didn't know why. Eventually what happened was the government changed the rules and took out that exemption so that we're now subject to that tax. So as of last August, we've had to raise our price. We don't know, and we're continuing to grow. We're seeing if our price is still lower than the others in the market, but it's still not as affordable to the target market that we need it to be and want it to be. So the jury's out on that. So in conclusion, I would say, what do we want from governments? We don't want special favors. We don't want any money from them. We want a fair playing field, fair regulations that are appropriate for water and for the customers we're serving. And we just want them to not make our job harder. And our job, we see it as their job largely too. I mean, we view ourselves as a stopgap utility until water is provided, safe water is provided to every household in these emerging markets. So we feel like we're doing a public service in what we're doing, but that's a lot of times overcome by other forces at play. So that's our wish. Just good cooperation and understanding of the context we're working in and just working with these local governments. So thank you very much for the honor of speaking and the privilege of being able to do this remotely. Again, I wish the panel the best and all the best to you, Al. Thanks again very much.